Garcia, voice of the people. Z. Garcia, voice of the people.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my top 100 games of all time 2016 edition. I am going to be covering today numbers 80 through 71, and a lot of the games on this piece of the list are actually games that have been on the list before. I have only 3 brand new games that have made it onto this list as opposed to the last time I did this, 2014. And so some of them have moved around. There's one big jump especially, but they've been featured before, and they are games clearly that have a lot of staying power because I still really like them. So, let's kick it off with number 80. That used to be my number 96 last year, and that is Telestrations. Telestrations, a very silly party game, which is basically the telephone game, but you draw it out. So you draw a picture, pass it to someone, they take a look at the picture, they write the word or whatever they think it is, pass it to the next person. That person only looks at that writing, draws a new picture, and so on back and forth until you get your own original word back, and then you go through them and just have a silly time and laugh. The game has scoring, but I don't think I've ever bothered trying to keep score, and most groups that do sort of abandon that halfway through anyway because it's just about being silly and having fun with folks. There is the one I have is the one for 8 players, but there is a party pack out there that plays 12 players, I want to say, and 12 is probably going to make for a really long game, a lot of downtime between players, but maybe that's to your liking. I enjoy with fewer than that, actually. I just think it kind of comes back to people a little bit faster, which is the fun part, getting to reveal the books and getting to laugh about the drawings. So, my number 80, Telestrations, went up a little bit for me because it's still hilarious, and I've actually found that the game's pretty flexible. You can play with variants that you come up with yourself. I typically just allow people to make up their own thing. It's pretty funny, and there's a lot. This game has legs outside of just what's in the box, so look into it. My number 79 was my number 30 last year, so this one has dropped quite a bit. I think it's just kind of falling through the cracks maybe for me, not hitting the table a lot, and that is Steam Park. Steam Park, a wonderful Euro-style game. It has a neat dice rolling mechanism at the very beginning, which I was actually concerned about when I first played it because it's sort of a speed element to the game. You roll dice, re-roll whatever you want until you're happy with the actions that those dice have given you, and then you grab a token and you're out of the dice rolling part, and then the rest of the game is just normal taking turns, doing actions, building rides, keeping your how filthy your park is under management. It's a theme park for robots, so the game's great. It's still clearly on my top 100 list here, and I do very much still enjoy it. Wonderful look as well. But it has dropped a little bit from 30 to 79. My number 78 was my number 80 last year, so basically the same number. And this is Scylla. This game is a little bit of a heavier Euro game, has quite a bit of things going on in it. It has voting mechanisms, it has worker placement, kind of. It has drafting new people, new workers. There's a lot going on in it, you know. There's a few different gears sort of spinning at the same time, but I like it a lot. It is not the type of game that normally I would enjoy, I think, but this one does it for me. It's very clever. It's different from a lot of other Euro games I've played. This one, in some ways, feels like it has some soul put behind it. There's some more thought that went into this game than just, oh, this action should earn people 5 points instead of 6. 6 is too strong, blah, blah, blah. And so I like that. I like when a Euro game is more, you can kind of feel that the designer put some feeling into it. I don't know how to describe that, but this one does it for me. 78, Scylla. My number 77 is a new game to the list. This is a new cooperative game that I have enjoyed tremendously, and that is Dead Men Tell No Tales. Dead Men Tell No Tales is a pirate theme, but a supernatural theme as well. The players are storming a ship that is burning. You are trying to loot that ship and get out, but haha, the ship is cursed, and so you have to fight skeleton deckhands, and you have to deal with these boss monsters that you have to fight on your way to get out. The ship is catching fire while you're doing this. You are discovering new rooms as you move around, so there's a tile placement mechanism. The whole thing is really cool, has a great look to it. It's got some interesting dice rolling. It's got a lot, actually, to the point that it took me a few games to actually make sure I wasn't missing any little rule, because there are quite a few of those little rules. But I do dig the game a lot, and I'm a huge fan of co-ops anyway, so this one might not necessarily get a lot of points for originality gameplay-wise, but everything it does bring to the table comes together very well for me. So, 77, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Number 76 was 59 last year, and this is Palazzo. Palazzo is an old Reiner Knizia game in which you are building palazzos. You're building palaces. And it's got a cool bidding mechanism where you either buy something straight up from the market, or you put one of the auction houses that are around the board up for auction, and if you're the one that did it, you sort of get a little boost to start. You get like 3 free bucks. And the whole thing is very, it's a slight game, and I don't mean that to sound bad. It is a small game. You know, there's not a lot of moving parts in this game. And again, as I said in one of my previous, a previous part of the top 100, I really like that about most Euro games. You know, I like the idea of a game that gives you a lot of interesting tactical choices without a lot of overhead for rules. This game does that very well for me. Really quick game, about 30-40 minutes, but fun to play. You know, it just engages you. The actions are so easy. I'm going to grab money, or I'm going to put this for auction, and we're going to have a little bit of a bidding war. I'm just going to buy some of these tiles, build up my little palazzos. The whole thing is just quick, and I like it a lot. So, that's my 76. My number 75 was my number 81 last year, which is basically the same thing, but it's even more impressive for me because it's a small filler game, and admittedly, filler games it's easier for them to fall out of favor, or to have cyclical favor at least. This one is Our Echo, and I am a huge fan of this little game. The game is from a Japanese designer, if I'm not mistaken, and it was put out by Z-Man Games. The game is just real clever, and I love little card games that make you go, huh, that's really interesting. I like that little twist. And in this one, the twist is quite simple. All the players are companies that process garbage, and so the idea is you're picking up garbage at different factories, and then you have to deliver it to the correct factory and pick up the garbage that is sitting there without going over your hand limit, because that represents like your garbage truck, and if you go above a certain number, you have to dump trash illegally, which is going to cost you some points. Kind of hard to visualize all of that, but I just love this game. I love the fact that in this game, except for the beginning of the game that you are given a few cards out, you never draw blind. You always know exactly what you are going to get because it's sitting on the board, face up. And so every time you play a card, you know exactly what you're getting. There's never a surprise. And so other players can screw you up, but you never get hosed by what you drew. And I like that quite a bit. So my 75, Our Echo. My number 74 was my number 72 last year, so the exact same pretty much. And this is Takenoko. I like the theme in this one. I like how attractive the whole thing is. I like that it's sort of a family plus game. It's not simple enough for me to teach to, say, like my parents. I would not teach this game to my parents because they wouldn't get it. But I think gaming families can get a ton of mileage out of this game because it's just so pretty, so cool, so different. the growing bamboo and the panda moving around are definite eye catchers, and the whole thing just works like a charm. I like it a lot. I think it's a game that every time it hits the table, it just charms me, and that's I think a good way to put it. This game is a charming game. So that's my 74 Takenoko. 73 is a brand new game, also a cooperative game, and this one has been a darling for a lot of people lately, The Grizzled. Now, The Grizzled is wonderful, and I think it even might be slightly higher up on my list than it would be otherwise with that new expansion that came out that gives you even more theme and even more focus while you're playing. A really great game, a light card game, cooperative game, which is kind of a rare thing. Most co-op games have a lot thrown in there, right? So that the machinations of what's happening is confusing enough so that players don't just think, oh, it's just a puzzle. You know what I mean? This one sort of deals with that by having a draw deck aspect to it, but very small game, a small footprint, easy to travel with, easy to play. Great stuff. I've gotten a lot of plays in of this one, and everybody I've played it with seems to enjoy it, or some people are just really wowed by it, you know. So that's The Grizzled, my 73. My 72, also a brand new game, and this one has also been something of a darling, but for the party game category, Spyfall is my 72. Really, you've seen us playing this live. If you've seen us play it live, and it goes over pretty well with friends. It goes over pretty well with sort of more relaxed get-togethers. You can sit around a big table. Don't need a playing surface really to play this. You can just sort of hand out cards and have it be a much more relaxed atmosphere as opposed to we have to sit around the table and play a game. I actually played this one time at a friend's house where we sat around a fire pit and at night in the evening and just all had a card, and the whole thing gave it a nice and mysterious feel to it where you're trying to figure out someone who is a spy, whereas everybody else knows the location you are at. The players ask each other questions to try to determine who is the spy. The spy has to sort of glean information from what they're hearing and bluff correctly. Very cool game. If you like party games, if you like that social deduction type of stuff, I would recommend this one very much. Spyfall. And then the last one for this set, my 71, was my 24 last year. It's kind of a big drop. Again, it hasn't come out to the table too much, though I really enjoy it. I remember the first time I played this, I thought, this is like a non-cooperative Pandemic, it felt like to me, because it had some of the same ideas. A very thematic game with very clean ways of achieving that. I'm talking about K2. And in K2, you are climbing K2. And you have a couple of climbers. You have to try to make it as high as you can, but then come back down as well safely. And the whole thing is this really simple hand management, push your luck thing where the weather gets worse and gets better over the weeks, and you know what's coming up just like 3 days ahead typically, and you can decide how much you're gonna push yourself, but then you might incur a penalty for sort of going, for outdoing yourself or for doing too much, and then you play cards to climb up, to rest, to build the tent, things like that. Really cool. Love the theme on this one because it's so original. And it just works beautifully. It even works well as a single-player game, in fact. I did a top 10 solitaire game some time ago. I don't believe this one made the list, but it was just on the cusp of that. This would have been like my 11, 12, 13, right around there. So definitely check it out. Or if you enjoy the theme, or if you want to look for a cool solitaire game as well. So there you have it. That is my 71 K2. And that will bring us to the end of this piece of the top 100 games from moi, Z Garcia. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you all on the next episode of these. We're getting close to the middle of the list. I'm very excited to share these with you. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Z can be a little polemic. He
stings like the 8th outbreaking pandemic. Z's got flavor in his top 100 games.
Lice shower.
Z Garcia, voice of the people.